Welcome back to TTHL. Today we travel to Sacramento, California to uncover the disturbing story of Dorothea Puente, also known as the House Landlady. Her story serves as a haunting reminder that danger can hide behind seemingly innocent appearances. But before we begin our terrifying tale, it's important to note that the following TTHL episode contains explicit details of violent crimes. Listener discretion is strongly advised. Now, let's dive into our terrifying tale that awaits. Born Dorothea Helen Gray on January 9th, 1929 in Redlands, California, Puente had a troubled life from an early age. She was married by the age of 16 and had 2 children, but gave one up for adoption while the other was sent off to live with relatives. Puente's life was filled with failed marriages, legal troubles, and a relentless gambling habit. In 1948, she spent time in jail for using forged checks to buy women's accessories in Riverside, California. Puente's criminal activities caught up to her in 1960, leading to a 90-day stay in the Sacramento County Jail. She had been operating a bookkeeping firm as a front for a brothel under one of her many aliases. In 1961, her second husband briefly had her committed to DeWitt State Hospital, where she was diagnosed as a pathological liar with an unstable personality. Despite marrying and divorcing 4 times, she kept the surname of her third husband, Roberto Puente. Focusing on running a boarding house in the early 1980s, Puente portrayed herself as a pillar of the community, offering assistance to the homeless and those with mental health challenges. Her boarding house on F Street in downtown Sacramento was seen as a community outreach facility. In the spring of 1982, Puente started living with 53-year-old Ruth Monroe in her upstairs apartment. Shortly after Ruth died from an overdose of codeine and acetaminophen, Puente claimed that Ruth had been severely depressed before her death and had more than likely taken her own life. A few weeks later, the police returned to the boarding house on F Street due to a complaint from one of Puente's tenants, 74-year-old Malcolm McKenzie. He accused Puente of drugging and stealing from him. Puente was convicted of the theft charges and was sentenced to 5 years in prison. In addition, the court ordered her to stay away from the elderly. While in prison, she began corresponding with Everson Gilmouth, a 77-year-old man from Oregon. They soon became good friends, and upon her release, Gilmouth picked her up in front of the prison in his red 1980 Ford pickup truck. However, he was never seen or heard from again. In 1985, Puente hired Ismael Flores to install flooring in her apartment. As part of his payment, she gave him a red 1980 Ford pickup truck, claiming she no longer needed it. Additionally, Puente asked Flores to build a 6 by 3 by 2 foot box for storage. After completing the box, Flores was asked to help Puente transport it to the local storage facility. On the way, however, Puente asked Flores to pull over and dispose of the box near a riverbank that was often used by locals as an unofficial dump site. Puente carried on with her practice of collecting Gilmouth's pension, systematically either cashing or depositing it into her personal banking account. Furthermore, she took the initiative to correspond with Gilmouth's family, notifying them about his deteriorating health and his incapacity to reach out to them. To dispel any doubts, she periodically provided them with updates on his ongoing medical condition, ensuring that her actions went unnoticed. A year after Puente and Flores discarded the box, a local fisherman stumbled upon it and promptly reported it to the police. Responding to the tip, investigators proceeded to open the box and were met with the grisly discovery of an unidentified elderly man's body. Puente maintained her practice of accepting boarders in the Sacramento area, garnering appreciation from local social workers for her ability to accommodate difficult clients. She took charge of their financial matters, ensuring that they received the surplus funds after rent and expenses were settled. Despite being legally instructed to refrain from handling welfare checks and avoiding interactions with the elderly following her conviction for theft in 1982, social workers regularly made visits to Puente's boarding house. Surprisingly, not a single complaint was lodged against her. Over time, the peculiar odors emanating from Puente's residence caught the attention of her neighbors. In addition, they witnessed a homeless individual, commonly referred to as Chef, hauling wheelbarrows filled with soil from the property during unusual hours. Not long after these events, Chef vanished without a trace, leaving behind a lingering sense of mystery as he was never seen again. However, it wasn't until 1988, after tenant Alvaro Bert Montoya, a developmentally disabled man with schizophrenia, went missing from Puente's boarding house, that a social worker named Judy Moyes grew suspicious and contacted authorities about her concerns. Montoya had been her client, and she had placed him in the home herself. It didn't make any sense to her that he would suddenly vanish. Authorities returned to Puente's boarding house on F Street once again. During the following investigation, the police discovered disturbed soil on the property and uncovered the body of 78-year-old tenant Leona Carpenter. Eventually, 7 bodies were found on the property. The horrific truth came to light, revealing Puente as a remorseless serial killer. Over several years, Puente had claimed the lives of at least 9 victims, though the exact number remains unknown. The full extent of her crimes may never be fully realized. These individuals seeking refuge fell victim to her sinister intentions. Puente had gained their trust, provided shelter, and ultimately poisoned them, all while hiding behind a facade of compassion and concern. She methodically drugged her victims to the point of overdose, concealed their lifeless bodies with bedsheets and plastic, and buried them in her yard, all while siphoning their welfare checks into her personal bank account. The subsequent trial became a media sensation, captivating the nation with its horrifying details. The courtroom became a stage for justice, as survivors and families of the victims shared their harrowing stories. In 1993, Dorothea Puente was convicted of 3 counts of murder out of the 9 charges against her. She received consecutive life sentences without the possibility of parole. Puente spent her remaining years at the Central California Women's Facility in Chowchilla, California, where she died of natural causes on March 27, 2011, at the age of 82. Until her death, she maintained her innocence and that all her victims died of natural causes. Our terrifying tale serves as a chilling reminder of the grim reality of human depravity. It calls upon communities to remain vigilant in safeguarding the well-being of their most vulnerable members, shedding light on the vulnerabilities often overlooked by society. Remember, TTHL enthusiasts, evil can disguise itself with a smile, and monsters may not appear as we expect. Thank you for joining us for this terrifying tale, and as always, we'll be here waiting at the crossroads of light and shadow for our next terrifying tale or haunted location. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit the like button, share it with your fellow horror enthusiasts, and subscribe for more spine-chilling tales.